I couldn't be found. I'll buy a big home. The bare necessities of life will come to you. They'll come to you.
Welcome back, everybody. So today we're going to be setting up your first Betta fish aquarium. This video is really geared at the newcomers into the hobby. Now, if you watched some of my previous videos, you saw that I got a Betta fish for my birthday from Brady's parents, and I love them. They also got a Betta for themselves, so they didn't really have a place for it, or they didn't have an aquarium. They had a little small bowl, which, as you know, watching some of my other videos or being in this hobby for a little bit, you know that's not really the most adequate. So I, took the next step. I brought him home with me to take care of him until we can figure something out. So I went to Petco, and I went ahead and picked up this 3.7 gallon fish tank. It's kind of like an all-in-one, has everything except a heater, which I got right here. And I'll go over everything that's on this table and everything that's going to be going into this and walk you through the process of setting up your first Betta fish aquarium. So this is the aquarium. I'm going to do a quick little unboxing. I already took it out of the box. It's just kind of a pain. So here is your glass lid. I believe this might be... Here we have your pump. It comes with everything you need here. So in this bigger box, this is the light. So before I start adding anything to the aquarium, I'm gonna take everything out. So all the filter media likes to live back in here. It also comes with a sponge as well. So this is, honestly, this has a lot. So this is gonna be your activated carbon. And then this will be your filtered media. And it also has a sponge. So actually what I'm gonna do, since I'm not gonna be waiting to let this tank cycle, I'm gonna be taking media from another tank and adding it to this one to kind of like instant cycle it. So most of the materials I'm using are gonna be from other tanks, so I'm not worried about this tank not cycling or being suitable as I set it up immediately. And I'll be monitoring it as well, and I'll be going over to Brady's parents' house to make sure that everything's good as time progresses. So what I'm doing, I'm just going to clean it out real quick. There's little debris here and there, so I just take a damp paper towel and also put a little white distilled vinegar on it as well. This is nice. I find a very effective cleaning agent. Helps prevent any marks on the glass and helps kill off any unwanted pests and anything. So I went ahead, there's a lot of debris in the back, so in the event that you feel like you can't get it clean enough with just your moist towel, I went ahead and did a quick rinse. Made sure everything was cleaned out. I didn't use anything like bleach for this. I'm not really worried about having any kind of bacteria or anything in here since it's dry. So I just did a quick rinse and everything is good to go to start. Once you get your tank all clean and you test it for leaks, it is ready for the substrate. Now what I normally do is I will rinse the substrate. I already did it, so it's just sitting in my bucket ready to be poured into here. So I'm gonna go ahead and add some to the tank. So here I'm using the Fluval Fluorite brand of substrate. I will note that this is not substrate from another tank. This is fresh that I cleaned off to get rid of any of the dust and debris that comes along with it. A lot of these kind of substrates, especially this one, needs to be rinsed beforehand. There are other things like Eco-Complete, which you do not want to rinse because it's kind of like a live substrate. Also, a good rule of thumb to remember, especially for any planted tank, any planted tank with plants that will be rooted in the substrate, be sure to leave at least a good, I want to say, 1.5 to 2 inches at the base level so you have room to actually plant your plants. Because I remember the first time I set up a planted aquarium and I did not leave enough clearance and my plants started uprooting, especially when I had like cories and other fish that would bother the substrate and they would dig them up. But with enough clearance, you won't have to worry about that. So yeah, that's just my kind of general rule of thumb. And I kind of like to make a gradual slope to kind of give that illusion of depth. What I want to do is kind of place this in here and figure out what I want to do with the wood. Now I really want to make sure I take advantage of this area. So what I'm going to do is probably put the plants back in here. So I want that kind of facing towards the back. Alright, so I took some stones and rocks from some of my other aquariums. So here I have a piece of slate stone which has a nice, you know, soft layer of algae growing on it, which I think will really help. And then I have a few more smoother stones. So here I'm not doing anything super complicated or, you know, really thought out. I'm just, you know, kind of playing with how I want these decorations to be. So I'm gonna go ahead and add the plants to the rock now, or to the driftwood, and probably fill it up and start putting it together. I want to put the pumps in and get all the filter media in the back too. So I want this to run for a little bit and let it settle and let you guys see what it looks like when it's all said and done. We have the first plant I want to use to kind of decorate the front of the wood. Now this is a low light, fast growing plant. I've had really good luck with it growing like wildfire in some of my smaller tanks. So what I'm going to do, and I'm going to try to be careful with it, is kind of wedge it in between some of these little nooks and crannies in here and let it kind of, I'm going to kind of be a little forceful with it. I don't want to hurt the plant too much, but I want to make sure it gets in there so when it starts growing, the roots will really take hold. So next, I'm sure everybody knows what this is. This is your typical Java fern. So what I'm going to do is use this and kind of wedge it in between the gaps in the wood back here, because most of these plants actually don't like being rooted in the substrate. They like kind of being attached to different objects and or free floating. That's just what they prefer. So I kind of want this kind of like, since it's going to be in the back, I think the Java fern really does a good job at kind of being a background plant. So these are very hardy plants and kind of hard to kill off unless you like melt them to death, which I've done. So I think we have our decorated pieces of driftwood. Let's see what it looks like in the tank. So I already really like how that is coming out. I think that's going to add a nice background layer of some life, and once those really take root and start growing out, they're going to look fabulous. Now I got a few other plants that are really meant for kind of the foreground. So I got some Anubias nana here. They're also plants that don't really care to be, you know, rooted. I've had issues with them uprooting, but since this is fluoride, it's not as fine as like dirt or sand. So I'm just going to kind of cover up the roots just a little bit so they kind of stay in place. So I'm going to just place this root. The root's kind of like under the rock so it kind of stays in place. And then to tie it all together, I'm going to set that rock up for a moment. And I have a whole bunch of baby tears I'm going to plant in the back. Now I'm not sure, this is kind of more of an experienced plant, or a plant for more experienced hobbyists, but I think it's going to do just fine. So one thing I really like to do for almost all of my planted aquarium is root tabs. Now I never use this specific brand. This is from my aquarium box again. Shout out to them. This is not paid advertising by any means. I'm not sponsored. I just really like their products that they put out in their subscription box. So if you haven't checked that out, check out one of my last videos. I did a couple unboxings here and there. I'm just going to use two of these. I'm going to put one in the back and one up front here. So I know you're probably thinking, well, hey, most of your plants are not actually rooted in the ground. Why are you using root tabs? I like that it kind of helps mature the substrate a little bit and add some extra level of nutrients to the tank. And it helps kind of keep a more balanced aquarium. Now I'm going to be gathering up the biological media and I'm going to set everything up. I do have this mini 10-watt heater, ideal for desktop aquariums up to 5 gallons. This is actually really a nice heater. I have them. I use it in some of my other tanks as well. I would highly suggest this for any, nano-sized aquarium that need a heater. If you're in like a colder area, definitely you will need heaters for your tanks. Sometimes people that live in warmer climates can get away without having one. But unfortunately for me, I live in Kansas City, so it gets pretty cold here, even during the summer. So here we have the light attached, and I'm draining water from the 55 into the tank, so I'm gonna just let that go ahead and fill up real quick and get back to you in a second. So here you have it. Here is your brand new 3.7 gallon Betta fish aquarium. Now there are a few more things to note. Now one thing I also like to do, especially when setting up a new aquarium, is adding some beneficial bacteria to it. I did add water from my 55 gallon, which is a very well established system, and I also added I added my biological media from another tank, a similar size, but I would still like to make sure that there is plenty to go around. Now that this is all set up, what I like to do is let it run for a little bit. I do consider this a cycled aquarium, since I used filter media and other things from other aquariums. I'm not worried about this spiking, but it is something that you, especially if you're new to the hobby or you're setting up your second tank, do check it, still monitor it. Last but not least, I like to add Indian almond leaves. I talk about this in my next upcoming video a little bit and why they're so effective, but it's really to help keep the parameters and help simulate a natural environment for the betta fish. So I'm just going to go ahead and try to wedge it in between the rock here. Normally they take a little bit of time to sink, but I'm going to go ahead and cheat. The last thing you want to check is the pump. Make sure it is on the lowest setting. Now this specific pump, its lowest setting is something I'm comfortable with. I've had other tanks and other all-in-one systems where the pumps are a little too strong, and I've had to modify it by cutting holes or like a little slit in the return tube, just to make sure that the flow is not too strong. But I'm not really worried about this, so I'm going to let this sit for a little bit before I drain it again, and then we'll take it over to Brady's parents, set it all up, and put the fish back into its new home. One thing to definitely note, in any case of using driftwood, a lot of people complain that their water turned to this kind of tea color. A way to avoid that is to boil it. So I didn't boil it for very long. I boil it for maybe 10 to 15 minutes. Some people boil it for hours and then let it sit in water for weeks on end just to remove any tannins they can. I honestly don't see that being a problem. Of course, one thing before I forget it, your thermometer. This thing will help to make sure that you are not cooking your fish. I mean, cooked fish is normally pretty tasty, but I'm pretty sure that betta fish will not, no. Just no. So unfortunately, I didn't get any footage of me tearing the tank down. All I did was remove the water, put them in a couple of old distilled water jugs, and I transported the tank over. And I set it all up there, I let it run for a little bit, let the fish acclimate to the temperature of the tank, and I released him. And it's been about a week now, and he is doing great. I get frequent reports of how he is doing. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, give me a thumbs up, consider subscribing for more. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Have you guys set up your first betta tank? Are there things that you would like to know? You know, if you have any questions, feel free to ask me. I love to share all of my experience with you guys and, you know, give you my advice if I can. But again, thanks for watching, and until next time, catch you later.